Hi guys, I've just done a whole big piece to camera that was amazing and that only took 2 seconds and I did the whole thing and I didn't press record. So, hello! Hello friends, Julian here. Basically, we're on to version 3 and I just want to really quickly run through the changes between version 2, which was my last video, my first casting, which I've just uploaded about half an hour ago, and I'm already getting great comments on. Really helpful, useful advice. So this is version 3. Version 2 I cast last time, and the differences are, there are a few, but they're quite small. So this was version 2, the last casting, and you can see the overall height of the whole thing is a bit less. The wings are a lot smaller, the ribs are a little thicker, the position of the middle handles has now moved, so it's kind of central. And the way the design is going, I mean, I haven't got there yet, but I am noticing, and also the comments to the video I uploaded an hour ago, rotary SMP, I can't remember the last 3 letters, but it was rotary something. He has come up with some great ideas about how perhaps that middle rib is not needed, and I'm with him on that. And also Perry, who is watching it right now, he emailed me to say he wonders if the ribs might catch sand and that might be a bit of a problem. And I'm with him on that too. And the more I think about it, the more I'm realising that these ribs are more for the PLA model to have strength rather than the aluminium part. And that's making me think that perhaps they should be very, very small, or if maybe non-existent. If I can reduce the tapered dovetail join area, then perhaps these ribs can be made, almost nothing in height. It's a new thought, and you guys, as per usual, are coming up with great suggestions that are making me think real hard about this. Yeah, I think we'll get there. So this is going to be my task for today. I want to be really quick. So I'm just going to, one last thing, I didn't show you the nuts. I'm very pleased with my nuts. I made sure everything was perfectly printable from upside down. And what it is, I'll show you in close-up in a sec. In fact, I'll do that now. I'll show you those in close-up, then I'll go and do the mould and cast this. This is version 3. As you know, we had loads of trouble with this, the version 2 design. I couldn't get this out of the sand at all, and mainly because of this 5-degree draft on this massive handle. So I had to drill to get it out. Well, I don't want to do that again. So I've put in these holes that are perfectly printable from upside down, and they fit. They're a lovely tight fit at the moment for, I think it's an M3 nut. It's certainly either M3 or M4. I think it's M3, but it's super small. And it fits in there. It doesn't fit easily. You have to really ram it in. And not only that, here was a little test design I did. So as you can see, let me get my Allen key out of my pocket. It's got a little cover on it so that the sand doesn't get stuck in the nuts. So there's the nut inside. And it's stuck really fast in there. And then what you do is you take the cover off, and then when you need to remove the pattern, just insert a few nuts like that, and then you've got something to hold on to. I haven't glued that in. I don't think I need to do that, but we'll see. I won't glue them in for today. They are really securely wedged in there. But popping a tiny half drop of super glue around the edge of that nut would not be a problem. These are the little nuts that fit in it. They're very commonly available. I bought these on Banggood, I think. That's what they are. And yeah, you can just do it up like that. How cool's that? So it shouldn't affect the pattern too much. Right, I need to put them in, so I'm going to do that now. There we go. See, that's very tight. That's one in. So that's them in there. Now I just pop a little lid on each one. There we go, lovely nut covers. I just need to do the handle bit. Alright, so I want them below the surface. Great. Now I'll just make up this middle section again. That's it. You'll also notice, where are they? Here. On these, I was in a real rush when I printed these little half pieces, and I didn't realise, but on my slicing program, they were touching another piece. So there's a little defect on the very edge of these two half pieces. I'm actually printing some more. I didn't want it to stop me casting, so I'm just going to go ahead with those, but there may well be a little bit of a defect on that edge, just there and just there. Alright, let's do it. Alright, excuse the slightly tight angle because I've lost my zoom lens. It's all a bit tighter, but hopefully it's lovely and clear and decently bright. Let's stay at this. So I'm going to go slightly smaller so I can use my slightly smaller flasks, but it will mean that my sand depth is quite low. That is something to think about. The pressure of the pour and everything like that. So I'm going to really load these up with parting powder. And you can see here on the middle where there's no rib, I've had to make a little bump to accommodate this nut trap. There is also quite a thin wedge of sand there now, so that is something else. Alright, well that's quite a lot. Probably too much, but there we go. It'll come off. I haven't actually taken it off. Alright, well it doesn't look too bad. Not too bad. The little nubs where the hex nuts are, just going to break those off because they're bound to fall off anyway. Alright, and spin this around so that it doesn't get blown away. I'm going to go light the furnace because it's not going to take long. Try and take these off then. I've tapped it. Oh, mama! Look at that! Oh! Oh, much easier. Okay. Alright, I'm just going to put this straight on the floor over there. Alright, let's do it. Wait for the aluminium. Oh, it's still going. Oh God. Oh, you! Woo! I thought it was going to run out. Oh, thank God for that. Oh. Wow. Nice one. That was a much better pour. Much quicker. Oh, it's exciting. I've already got some good ideas for the next generation. Let's just see how this one went first. Ooh. That looks awesome. Oh, it's still warm. Ooh. Handles look nice. That looked alright. Let's see if we've got any shrinkage. Ah, interesting, look. So the shrinkage is happening on this surface now. Interesting. But only where the ribs are. So, you see in there is shrinkage, but it's on that bottom plate now, rather than the handle fins or these ribs. God, it all looks really good. Well, I never. It's basically perfect. The shrinkage has moved from inside these rib areas to the bottom base plate. And I guess that's because this surface here, you see it's occurred here on this surface. But that doesn't matter because it's inside the flask. Now I just need to know whether they're flat or not. This one looks like it's got a bit of a bow again. Right, let me chop those off and we'll have a look. They look amazing. So, the backs look incredible. There is shrinkage where the fattest bit of aluminium is on the other surface. Obviously that stays hottest longest, so that has shrunk down away from the edge of the mould. Less so here, because these ribs are thinner. But there's a fair bit of shrinkage on that flat back plate in the centre there. It's not broken through, but I would say there's only like 3 or 4 millimetres of thickness there. Still, that's fine, I think, because who cares whether there's a bit of shrinkage in there. The actual handle is amazing. I did a whole bit to camera about what I was thinking next, and I didn't press record, as per usual. So, this is strange. Well, not strange, it's a result. A bad result. It's more bent than it was before. Now, it could be the bumps. These are a tiny bit bumpy and they need a little tiny sand to average them out. But as a quick look, I would say that these have bent even more than the last lot did. So this version 3 bent more than the version 2 did. And the only thing I changed was the thickness of the ribs and the height of it. And I don't think the height of it would have made any difference to the bending. I think that if anything would have reduced the bending. I think possibly it was the thickness of the ribs that made it bend more. So I need to go back to thin ribs. And I've just been in and had my dinner, And while I was having my dinner, I had an email from Perry, who was watching the video I uploaded today, which was the casting of the version 2, the one before. In that email, Perry said he finds on his metal flask, so Perry made a metal flask out of angle iron, and the annoying thing about his flask, he said, was that it catches the sand. There's always loose sand on the kind of shelf, and that he finds that really irritating. And I can see that being an annoying problem. And he said, would I find this has the same problem? And I think it might have the same problem. So, ever since I got that email about an hour ago, I am toying with the idea of removing the ribs altogether. Not completely, because they are required to strengthen the PLA model. This is what I'm realizing. Because it's modular, there needs to be a tapered dovetail. The tapered dovetail is what makes the modularity work. Now, the PLA model, what I think I need to do is shrink the tapered dovetail enough so that I can reduce the height of the whole thing even more, but I don't want to reduce it so much that the whole thing becomes like really rickety and rubbish, because at the moment it's solid as anything and is really, you know, for the modularity part of it, it's 100% brilliant. It's just not casting perfectly because of these ribs and the bend. I'm trying to get rid of the bend. I think it would be lovely to get closer to 90 degrees. I don't know why I'm sticking to that, but maybe it's not really a big deal, and you know, when you've got 4 sides, you can just sand a bit until they fit perfectly, but it's kind of, I'm finding it slightly annoying that I can't make them straight. I love these little nut covers and the kind of, the nuts I used. These were just brilliant. They worked so well. So I think we need to have thinner ribs and smaller ribs again. I'm going to try, and that's what I was drawing just here. So because of the tapered dovetail, I need this thing here, at least a little bit. I can't reduce it to just a flat piece of aluminium. So if I can reduce the height of that a bit more, I can reduce the height of the ribs and maybe even go as far as just say I can reduce the height of the whole thing further to say that high, and I need this, I need that column there. So here is there's the thickness of the aluminium bottom plate, and there, perhaps I can reduce the ribs to just a 45 degree. Do you know what I mean? Rather than having ribs along the whole thing. I think it's worth a go, because I'm on this ridiculous crusade now, and in for a penny, in for a pound. As castings go, these worked great. Yes, there's shrinkage, but I don't think there's any problem with where that shrinkage is. I could cast these two again, and I think confidently that they would end up roughly the same. So I could spend 10 minutes sorting out these angles and bolt them together, and that would be half of a flask. So I'm confident that at least that is done. So I'd like to go one stage further, one more try at reducing the bend. I'm well impressed with this. That's come out great. I'll do some close-ups. So as you can see, it looks really good. Shrinkage there and there. A little bit less on these thinner columns, but on the fatter ones, that's where the worst of the shrinkage was, on this piece. They look nice. Nice straight corners again. And again, the back looks amazing. Little impressions where the nut covers were. The grooves worked really well. I can't go any bigger with those grooves because they go 4mm in, well, about 3.5 in, and the back plate is only 7 anyway. So, you know, with this shrinkage here, it's getting a little thin if I made those any bigger. So I think those are absolutely fine. And they would also be good location spots for people to put ribs, bigger ribs. But these came out great. If I put them together, you can see a little bit of a bend. It's about 2 millimeters there. So, interesting. The bend is worse on the side with the gates. So it's all about heat, isn't it? This side of the piece presumably gets hottest because that's where the metal is going in. So presumably this bit shrinks last. And maybe well, this piece is the piece that's shrunk the most, undoubtedly. This piece has shrunk least. So I think these haven't helped. So I think I'm going to go with this and try and reduce the ribs somehow. But overall, really chuffed with the actual mould making. That was the fact that that worked. It's only ever going to get better than this, I think, easier mould wise. This is about as hard as I think it'll be. So that's great that was achieved tonight. That was really cool. And maybe let me know, do you guys think these are good enough? Because I don't have any experience making metal flasks. I just thought I'd try and make some and kind of bring you along with me on the journey. If you think it's perfectly acceptable just to cast 2 more and then perhaps using a sander, just sand back the angle to the angle you need, and that's acceptable, then perhaps this is job done and it's just kind of further experimentation for the experimentation's sake, and perhaps that's not required. I would like to do one more very radical design change, and that's remove the ribs and reduce it as much as possible in height, just to see what happens, so that I can look back at all the versions. So this is version 3. Very cool indeed. Surprised at how well that came out. Yay! There's the Quite severe shrinking there. A little bit less so here and here. And that marries up with the thick columns there.